We'll record on the computer. All right, here we go. All right. We are here for another episode. Oh my goodness. I have Miss Mariana again. I am so excited because I haven't been on Instagram for, a while now. So I'm really happy to be able to collaborate again and get us another great message out to the people about just health and wellness and, our experiences with the brain and the heart. So I want to just remind people the last episode we did was about surrendering to your heart and being able to use that information to navigate equally your head and your heart. So y'all check that out on Entertain the Thought if you have not heard it yet, or you can go on Miss Mariana's page. Tell them your Instagram and introduce yourself, please.
Sure, no problem. My name is Miss Mariana. My IG is MissMarianna365, and my website is missmarianna.today.
I love it. So today, you guys, we're going to be talking about health shaming, the dangers of health shaming. Both of us, I would consider, are health practitioners in our own right. And so I think it's going to be a total holistic conversation that we should have about what health shaming actually looks like and what it means for not just people that are physically making health changes, but people that are emotionally and mentally making health changes as well. We can talk about some of the dynamics there where people may be getting shamed about any type of health and wellness situation or issue that they may be having. So let's just go ahead and start off because I don't think I've ever been health shamed before. So I think that's a good place to start is what does it actually look like to be health shamed?
I think it's easier to find it in a physical realm first because, we tend to respond to the molecules, the skin, the flesh, right? And I think the first time I didn't even know it was like a thing. And it happened a few times where I'm 41 years old, but I'm kind of a late in life person in terms of becoming more athletic. Like I wasn't raised in a household that was about sports or athleticism. This was kind of like a late in life thing, like learning how to lift weights and,
Yes.
just active. I wasn't that person. My mom was about culture and art and spirituality and all that. So it was all up in the head and the heart and the spirit, but the body was like, I was the last one picked when it was or when we had to do the required test in gym class, I was the last bringing that mile in. That just experience, right? So it was like my mid 30s where I really started exploring myself in terms of, just what can my body do? And, you start to have different conversations after 30 and approaching 40 in terms of preserving the body and the importance of that. So it wasn't so much about, trying to grow a big booty or so much of these other things. It was first just trying to love and accept my changing body as a maturing woman, right? There's bombarded with in terms of self-hatred for the body. And then I wanted to learn just like how strong I am. And so when I started training and, working with my god brother, who is pretty much a coach in so many different ways, I started exploring boxing and all these different things. My first experience doing the Spartan race, which is just this really intense.
Yeah.
So I trained for that and, got through it successfully. And I can remember the first time, I would hear little comments from people and, I just thought people were acting funny style. I wasn't sure what it was, but it would come up and show up in comments like, you so skinny already. Why are you doing all that? Why you in there flipping tires with them big old men? Like, what's the point? What's your reasoning? Or
Wow.
you getting older to, get all super duper macho and fit and everything. And then, for a while too, like I was just learning how to be strong. So I didn't understand like the value of protein and carbs and fats and how to apply those things to the body and the science of that. And so I started feeling like this feeling of like people were convicted about what they weren't doing because these comments weren't coming from other people who weren't physically active, right? The people who are physically active and working out and pursuing it, whether it's for aesthetic reasons or just health reasons, like these comments weren't coming from those individuals. The comments were coming from people who didn't really value working out or seeing working that was just something you did at a certain age in your life, or if you're an athlete. And so then I started noticing that more and more, like, oh, so it's not people who work out regularly who are making these comments. It's the people that don't do it. And that's what I started exploring, like, oh, this isn't about me at all. This is a deflection from the conviction that you're feeling inside for either telling and making the decision that you can't be physically strong or you can't be a late in life, blossomer in terms of working out. And so, it kind of made me feel like a little ashamed of it. And I was like, why am I feeling bad about doing something that's positive for my health and well-being? Like, you got me messed up right now. So
Okay.
that's, it was a thing that it wasn't my responsibility to harbor those comments or that energy, that I had to self-regulate that how those things made me feel. And at the end of the day, the way I feel after I work out or after I make good health choices with my food, I know that's a good feeling for me. And I know that the comments that were made didn't make me feel good. So I had to choose, like, what am I going to value more? The outcome of what I'm doing all this for, or the feedback from other people, whether it's positive or negative. And so I think that to kind of introduce that to our conversation through the physical changes and choices, it can go a little further with, a lot of people stepping into veganism for a lot of reasons, right?
Quite a
And
bit.
I've been a variety of diets in my life. I was raised pescatarian, vegetarian. So my mom didn't do poultry or red meat. I was pretty much adamant about that. And then for a while, I was a vegan. And then last year, I decided with doing more training and stuff to actually introduce animal protein into my diet. And so another example of health shaming was all my vegan and vegetarian friends looked down on me like, I was
Eat
just
that flesh.
you digressing, you carnivore, like, and it would show up always as jokes or this like slight discomfort. But it was, first of all, I wanted to explore my dietary choices for me, not necessarily how I was told, right? I wanted to explore what was best for me. And then secondly, too, a lot of people were confused because I still eat vegan and vegetarian food. Like, there's this idea that you have to be a vegan, to eat food. And so I eat a variety of different ways according to my needs and what I'm exploring. So again, another example, not just the working out, but a lot of my vegan friends or people in the vegan community be confused about what my decision was for choosing to eat animal protein. And so that was a bit of, again, that conviction, which showed up as like, should I be ashamed? And it's like, no, I'm doing this for me. It has nothing to do with you. And then the last example is, I remember I have a very close friend who at the time we were roommates, and we were both pescatarian, vegetarian. So we ate we ate seafood, and I was exploring becoming a vegan again. And it kind of showed up as this threat to my roommate, like, well, I'm not going to change how I shop. I'm not going to change anything. And I had to make it very kindly and calmly clear and say, this is a decision that I'm making for me. I'm not disrupting your pattern. I'm not going to change how I do my diet. And it was like, this isn't about you, So again, it showed up to me as like a fear of me infringing upon what their habits or their choices are. So those are three examples that are in terms of physical, dietary, and health choices that showed up as health shame, in my opinion.
Perfect. Okay. So they put me in the mind while you were talking
Yeah.
about what could be causing people, because, and I have this, like I told you earlier, my niece and I are doing this health challenge, and she's only 14 years old. And so I'm doing my best to make sure she understands that there are some things about health, healthy lifestyle choices and about weight loss that really have to be learned in order for it to remain healthy. Because what I know about my personal journey with exercising and the weight loss and everything was that I I originally was fighting an addiction to it. Because like once I started to see the results, I don't know, it's kind of like that dopamine where people get into the health and wellness lifestyle and then they just kind of get addicted to it. And I feel like there's a little bit of shame attached to that too. When you're just overly, obsessed with it, or to the point where you're just maybe not concerned with it at all. And so I'm thinking, what could be causing us to react like that, whether it's one extreme or the other? Because like you said, it's the first thought I had, is it ignorance that's causing people to do that because they just want to be somebody's antagonist? Or is it crab in the bucket where, like you said, they're looking at themselves and they just don't want you to be doing better than them? Or is it this literally just a projection where they're looking at all of their internal flaws and they're projecting that onto you to say, oh, no, what you doing losing all that weight, girl? You look better with that meat on your bones.
Right.
I've had people
I,
tell me that.
yeah, no, I think it's all of the above. And definitely, even down to the vernacular of the meat on your bones, down to
Yeah.
culturally, Black women having this melanated experience. I think that a lot of what we identify culturally is just not always for our higher good.
At
If we
all.
take back to slave plantation days, like the foods that we ate before being brought through the Middle Passage into America,
Mhm.
our diets weren't the same. We were eating the scrapings and the leftovers and the garbage that, and we learned how to make it a delicacy. And culturally, we've attached to the taste of the, putting the extra fat and putting the extra butter and putting the extra seasonings,
Mm.
trying to form, which is otherwise seen as garbage, right? One man's trash is another man's treasure.
And Lord, did we make some treasures? Lord have mercy, them doggone
Right.
ham hocks, baby. Them, they
Yeah,
be
we
serious.
but I think the to kind of go back to what you're saying, where does that come from? I do think it's all of the above. I think we're clinging to what we know,
Mhm.
regardless of how our cholesterol feels about it, our
Okay.
arteries feel about it, our blood
Mhm.
pressure feels about it. Like
Mhm.
culturally, we can make exceptions for a lot of the things because we're comfortable with it and it's the norm for us. But if we ask our arteries, if we ask our cholesterol, if we had that conversation strictly with them, they're not as concerned about how much we cling emotionally to food. And I've been talking about this a lot lately on some of my other platforms in terms of like, us making decisions from an emotional state of base, like you said, in terms of it being addictive.
Mhm.
And I just talked about addiction the other day, and it's very easy to insert whatever addiction you deem worse here, right? So if
Mhm.
you think heroin and crack or cocaine is the extreme, and that's what you're hardwired to think drugs is, it's very easy to overlook addiction to sex, addiction to food, and addiction to shopping, which can all ruin people's livelihoods, right? So when we're talking about addictions and changing behaviors, if we're going to look at generational trauma and experiences and attachment and the inability to detach from certain things, we also have to look at addiction through our food. So when you were talking about the extremities, I think there's two sides. There's some people, like for me, I quit smoking marijuana probably about a year and a half ago. And I came to the realization that a lot of the people that I spent social time with weren't genuinely my friend because I don't see them. Oops, hold on. I don't see them. I don't see them anymore. And I had to come to terms with the fact that, our connection was through our addiction. We had an
Mhm.
addiction connection.
Mhm.
Probably less than 5 people on one hand that actually check on me or spend time with me, because a lot of our time was about congregating through our addiction. And
Mhm.
the beginning of our conversations, where do we at? Like that's what we praised and that's where our attention went to. And I don't shame them
Mhm.
for choosing to continue that particular thing, but I did have to go through like, huh, okay, how important was I in your life if we didn't share this addiction? You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I do think there's extremities. I think that people can allow their ego and self-righteousness to look down on people in
Mhm.
a way that makes them look bad if they haven't, quote unquote, evolved to whatever level that they feel they're at. And then I think there's other people too that are looking up and they know genuinely it's something that's positive, but they're not ready to make that particular choice or
Mm.
to adaptations to let go to what they're culturally familiar for, or what they're comfortable with. So I think it's all the above. And the thing is the balance. Like for me, I have
Mhm.
that moment where it's like, oh, you're eating this crap, or oh, you're wearing this or you're wearing that. And I realized like I was holding myself hostage to people living up to the expectations that I was striving for. And so
Mhm.
now I'm really in this lane where it's like, what works for me is what works for me. What brings me joy is what brings me joy. What works for
Yes.
you And now we can coexist. But all that other expectation and judgment just
Mhm.
makes you a really shitty person to be around.
And most of the time, that's exactly what it is that the person is just miserable. And I feel that a lot of times when our, when we kind of get judgy with each other because
Yeah.
this person doesn't do what you think they should be doing according to how you think they should do it. And all of a sudden, you have this high horse that you're on, and you're like, how in the hell did you get up there when I
Yeah.
don't even appreciate what you're saying or what you're doing for my life? What you're doing for your life works. For you. But I had this is a good lead into the next question that I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned earlier self-regulation.
Mhm.
And self-regulation is one of my main tools for keeping myself healthy and well. My thing is, okay, I follow health and wellness pages, and watch the different exercises they do. I've come to realize there is no exercise. You just move your body. That's exercise. You add resistance. That's exercise. I mean, no matter what the motion is. So I've just really come to understand a lot from following the health and wellness community, the trainers, and all the exercise gurus and stuff. And what I've decided is that out of all of this knowledge that I've amassed over the years, I'm just using that to change my lifestyle in ways that are comfortable for me as I go along. My journey has been how do I say, very kind of want to say slow, maybe. I guess I could say it's slow, but it
Mhm.
has been a continual evolution where at first I started off, I was just like everybody else, eating anything under the sun, and I had 200 pounds worth of body weight to prove it. And
Right.
what ended up happening was I started self-regulating because, first of all, my uncle made a comment to me that made me wake up. He said, Reese, it's a thin line between thick and fat.
Yep.
And when he said that to me, it kind of like opened my eyes up to something. I was like, okay, I understand. And I also had another wake up call for listening to my body, like you mentioned, or like you described. I could not breathe. Do you know how hard it is to put clothes on when you got extra weight on you? I used
Yeah.
to be uncomfortable, and
Right.
my body would, basically let me know this is the reason why. It's because you're not healthy. It's not about the size of your body, but baby, you can't breathe walking up the top of these steps.
Exactly.
And, so what I started doing was I started getting more familiar with exercising, doing cardio. I had a workout buddy. She and I would do 2 a days, and I lost a good 25 pounds. And of course, I had to get a comment from the guy I was dating at the time. You getting too small. I can't even see you no more.
Oh,
You need to,
nope.
yeah, you exactly. You getting a little too small. I was like, Lord have mercy. Can I just do me? But I wanted to talk about that because if you're self-regulating, there has to be, I feel, a base level of knowledge and information. And I
Yeah.
want to talk to people about what's a healthy way to gather up that information and kind of a healthy way to design this kind of lifestyle change. Because for me, it had to be slow. First, I was eating everything, like I said, and then I just started slowly whittling away at the things that I would not
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah.
I would, first, I went to like low fat options. I wouldn't stop eating meat, but instead of me having beef, I would have turkey,
Yeah.
or instead of me doing, regular ranch, I got light ranch. I would just make little changes. And over time, I kept doing that. Eventually, I got to the point where I'm not eating any meat. I barely eat dairy. I barely eat any, cheese or, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's just been an evolution. So what can we say to people about making lifestyle changes when people think off top, we just got to be perfect, go from being nothing to something real quick? And I feel like that's something that's kind of stopping us from taking on the weight of our health and wellness.
Yeah. So for that, I would say a lot of the times when I'm trying a new journey, I refer to myself as baby Mari. And
Nice.
I it helps me to have a more gentle approach to some of the very big feats and goals that I have.
Mm.
And so oftentimes when a baby has to try something new, you have two different types of babies. You got that, or moments as a baby. You have the very fearless moments and you have the very fearful moments. And so when those conversations start showing up in my head, if I'm fearless about it, I go for it. That's where
Mm-hmm.
Ari is completely like, I'm ready to plunge in. If I scrape my knee, I scrape my knee. I know how to jump right next time.
Yeah.
But when there's a fearful part of me, of the unknown, or I don't know what's going to happen in the dark, or all those kind of things, I talk myself through it. And I say to myself, you don't have to run this marathon overnight. You can make incremental changes. And even when we look at the development of a child and all of our phases from infancy to adulthood, those are very tender transitions, right? When we're cutting our teeth, right? We can't just put a full course meal. We start off with certain soft foods. As the teeth come in and mature and can take on that next challenge, we level up, we level up, we level up, right? And so as we do that, I think it's very fair to say there are going to be uncomfortable moments. But as you achieve that goal, you're no longer uncomfortable because you've pushed past the fear in it. So I don't think it has to be overnight changes. I am a retiring perfectionist, and I'm very proud of that, because that has cut off a lot of wonderfully full life experiences trying to execute things perfectly. But what I do say is I am going to make incremental adaptations, just like the example that you made, but also know once I made the adaptation to also be aware of anticipating that there's going to be another level up.
Yes.
And then you're going to feel like a baby all over again, like, dang, now I'm cutting it, whatever it is that you're doing. So as you're leveling up, know and anticipate, you don't just get to master that level and be done with the whole process. Know that it's just like a video game where you see kids play. It's like, I got through level 1, then you get to number 2 and you're back at the bottom. You got to do it 7 times before you get to, golden land. I don't know. I'm playing video games.
All them coins.
So I don't do this to be comfortable every moment. I do it to have a better quality of life, which is ultimate comfort for me. So, for example, when I'm doing boxing training, or when I'm doing weightlifting, or when, like today, we had to run 10 30-second sprints at 8.5 on the treadmill. The coach had put it up to 10 points on the treadmill. He said, y'all jump up there and do 10 30-second spurts. Now, it's wintertime and it's colder. In the spring and in the fall, I'm running more. So I'm a little more lean and I'm a little bit more agile and active and swift on my toes. But when it's cold outside, we're doing a little bit more weightlifting and not as much cardio. So this is an example of baby Mari. Last week, he turned that thing on and that treadmill started flying. Me and my workout partner, Laura, kind of looked at it like, So I did do one complete 30-second sprint, which seems like forever when you're not in that condition. When I came back, I made the decision in my mind for the second lap that it was too hard. My body followed. So, we got our lesson for the day. We came back this week, and today he turned on that treadmill. He started pushing it higher, and me and Laura started looking at each other. But he only went to 8.5. We did all of our reps, right?
Nice.
Out of it was, what do I need to do? First, I need to not even go into the thought of how difficult this is going to be, or my body will follow. The next thing is, what adaptations do I need to make? So I was slamming my feet a little too hard. So a lot of that was opening my stride, really, really making sure, instead of doing small steps and trying to keep up, and that makes a lot of noise and heavy breathing, was taking larger leaping, stride.
Then that.
Your body follows your breathing regulation, if we're talking about regulation. So if we're doing a lot of heavy panting, the moment the breathing increases, the heart rate's increasing, and then you feel like your heart's going to explode. So one of the immediate adaptations that I had to make in my mind, instead of getting into how difficult it is what will make this not easier, but what will make this process more effective. Open your lungs and fill your lungs completely. You don't have to breathe every time you step. So we completed it. We executed it. At the very end, I did get a little tired, but I made sure to go the full stride and complete all the reps. And what that did was reformatted my brain to say, you didn't leave on what you can't do. You made the incremental changes on what you can do. Now the muscle memory, the mind memory, the spirit imprint of me walking away feeling accomplished is totally different than shutting down, because emotionally, mentally, physically, our body remembers that, and we hold on to the memory of defeat. And so I was able to walk away today with not just the good job and the good lesson words from coach, but this feeling of accomplishment, to where next time we'll make the adjustment to go to 9.0, right? And then 9.0, 10. So if I would have allowed fearful baby Mari to dictate on the unknown or the fear, my body would completely do that.
Yeah.
Courageous baby Mari, fearless baby Mari was like, get your ass up here. And I did. There was a few times my body language even said I was defeated, and I had to stand corrected in that. And so that's a very physical example of what it is in terms of transforming and doing the adaptations necessary to self-regulate. I had to do that. Coach could yell at me all day about, show up, kill the ape, do what you got to do in your
Yeah.
mind. But if I didn't accept that thought and swap it out for the optional thought that was not for my higher good, no matter how much he gave me or told me, that was an inner decision that I had to make for it to eventually show up in my physical manifestation.
I
And the
love it.
doing. So hopefully that kind of gives people, listeners, an example of, no, you don't have to go 0 to 60. You might have to go 0 to 3.0 to 9, whatever it is, but eventually you get there. The bottom line is, what's your attitude and approach, and what mental, physical, spiritual, emotional adjustments do you need to keep chipping at it and getting
Yeah.
towards that?
I love that you said that, because I was thinking about a conversation I had with my niece. We were talking about how addictive it is to achieve goals.
Yeah.
And I was laughing. She probably gonna laugh right now because I'm about to tell on her, but she was like, "It is. Oh my God." But we were sitting there just talking about how when you set a goal like that for yourself, because it is something that is a huge mountain, for you to just make it up a quarter of the way, it is huge and it should be rewarded. And I think our physical anatomy supports us having mental challenges and goals
Yeah.
and achievements, and that rewarding dopamine shot that we get when
Yeah.
it's time, when we make an achievement. I think that's like nature's built-in way to help us feel gratitude, help us feel happiness, and help us to keep going. It's that programming language that we're on. And I really think that if we kind of tap into that, we could probably overcome health shaming a lot more, because what we're looking at is like this puzzle, like a game piece.
Yeah.
We're really trying to beat ourselves. And I
Yeah.
think if we look at it like I would tell my niece that the part of my self-regulation when it comes to health and wellness has a lot to do with the gaming that I do with
Yeah.
myself. I
Yeah.
set the goal and I'm like, okay, what numbers do I have to
Yeah.
play with for me to get to this weight loss goal? Like, am I looking at the calories? Am I looking at the minutes on the treadmill? Am I looking at the number of steps I took today? Like, I'm journaling my food. I'm taking pictures of my food. I am like looking at the back of the labels to see the portion sizes and the calorie, serving size and things like that. So I'm looking at the numbers, and I told her, for me, my self calibration also takes on that kind of look where
Yeah.
I'm creating this game of numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, when them numbers start looking good, I'm telling about the dopamine shots that I got. Boy, I be in that camera, I be in that mirror. I be like, look, I ain't lost but 5 pounds, but look at it. I be like, yes, look at her. She did it, 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Because the
But
numbers.
dopamine is really based on how we're hardwired, and dopamine is not a bad thing. Our body creates it. Our body also, once we have that dopamine perception, it connects to serotonin, which is the element that makes us feel bliss and joy and happiness. So if we hardwire ourselves for towards addictions that are detrimental to our health and well-being, but simply give ourselves an option, it isn't that difficult. And that's why when you see like recovering addicts who might look like extremists in terms of maybe their religion or their physical workout, I would much rather see somebody highly dedicated to things that serve their healthy good and their survival, and not just surviving, but thriving. That I would rather see that addiction as opposed to maybe the drug or the food or the gambling addiction that might have been the very thing that took them off of this planet. And that is a much more happier, healthier person. And some people, we do have addictive personalities.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
I smoke weed. I smoke weed all day, every day,
Mhm,
and I was a high functioning weed smoker.
mhm.
So I could still, I was a very goal oriented and ambitious person. But once I started having conversations about how much of my motivation is hardwired to going to get weed or being high, that freed up a lot of hard drive when I let that go. Like, wow, if I'm able to perform at this capacity without this,
Mm,
what can I do without this addiction? And I think
mm.
it's hard sometimes for us, again, to measure what is addictive behavior when the cultures and the popularity things around us are so centered on our very addiction. For example, I was just talking about this the other day, and it's a very touchy subject. Even when I brought up weed, when I was talking on my Black with No Chaser site with my fam, before I got to weed, so when I talked about drugs or alcohol, nobody really chimed in. But the moment I started talking about just the factual matter of weed addiction, not from a space of judgment or telling people they should or they shouldn't, that's when a lot of people chimed in. I know that marijuana is extremely popularized now and acceptable across the board in a lot of places. So then they tried to kind of make it into this debate. And I was like, look, I'm not here to debate you about it. You can insert whatever addiction is here. Addiction is pretty much defined by something that you wake up looking for, going to sleep looking for, and needing throughout the day that takes away from your ability to function on your own in a self-regulated way, right? And so once you start getting there, people start getting like real touchy because—
Yeah, what you talking about, Willis? I'm not addicted.
And it's like, well, no, it wouldn't matter what it is that you insert here. You're being defensive right now. And I'm not taking it away from you, but it is worth having the critical decision on, am I addicted to sex? Am I addicted to shopping? Whatever it is, it's worth having an internal conversation about that, no matter how much society promotes it or pumps it out for whatever money that they're making off of it. Another thing that I talked about that was very touchy, where I have to temper this conversation in a way that's honest, because I made the decision not to lie no more in my life, and it makes me
yes.
But I also learning the level of necessary sensitivity to make sure, and awareness to make sure that the conversation can be received without criticism and shaming. Is a lot of us won't talk about food addiction because of the fear of body shaming that's connected to it. And that's what we were talking about. So I really appreciated you sharing that, self-check and story about your relative saying that to you, is that a lot of women in particular, because, the curvaceous body is celebrated, right? That there are women who are willing to forsake the health of their cholesterol and their hypertension and their blood and all these different organs to fulfill the appearance of that fine line between thick and possibly obese, right? And so when we have this conversation again, just like kind of like the weed conversation, certain people perk up to things that they might fall in the category of or find offense in it. And all I'm saying is, let's not debate about it. Let's entertain the thought. I think that's one of your, right? Let's entertain the thought in the conversation in order to go a step further to see where there might be some adjustments available for over health and well-being. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that society say is beautiful that are very detrimental to our health and has long-term effects. And so again, I always say to myself, no matter how everyone else may appreciate this or how much society may say it's cool or hot for the moment, because most trends only last a certain amount of time.
Very true.
What would my body say about that? What does my lungs say about the fact that a lot of people say, I want to be a revolutionary, but you can't run a mile to save your life if necessary. Is it carb, and is it just the fashion, and is it just the ability to omit these ideas, or are you really living a revolutionary lifestyle that requires a level of survivalism? I'm really big into survivalism. You might not see me in red, black, and green with the Black Power fist all day, but I pick up 180, 190 pounds if necessary to pick up a body that can't pick itself up and drag it to freedom. That's when I start looking at, examples of, are we responding to what we're convicted by? So back to the whole body shaming thing, I think because it's promoted to be a thicker, borderline overweight woman, and because this conversation is don't shame me, then it takes away from any possibility of having an accountable conversation for, am I doing this for the praise of the cultural response to you like my ass being fat, or you like my thighs being thick? Or am I also willing to look at the fact that this is beyond thick? I'm making food choices and health choices that my kidneys, my livers, my lungs later on down the line won't give a damn about what was in fashion or in fad at that time.
That's right.
And so again, African women, especially, being an African descendant, I get it. We all have different shapes and sizes. So I'm not saying that everybody's supposed to be skinny as a stick, but I'm also saying that some of the choices we make, whether it's the food that we continue to eat without the exercise to balance, Our thyroids are out of control. There's
Oh, that's serious too.
fibroids that are growing inside of our bodies. There's
Serious.
a lot of things as a result. And then even if it's not food choices, there's bulimia. There are Black women who are anorexic, who aren't eating right. There are Black women who are, it's your choice. It's always your choice, but you're putting toxins inside of your body to inflate certain body parts to go for what is culturally there. And we have to look at how that starts to teeter into body dysmorphia.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Dysmorphia can show up as, okay, it's somebody that's just getting plastic surgery. But what if we extended and entertained the thought of body dysmorphia is also maintaining this thick body through eating foods that are unhealthy for our long-term health and benefit, and not really wanting to go there, and then having the defense mechanism if somebody like your uncle who cares, who, you know, he's not attracted to you for your body in that way.
Right. He trying to tell me.
Here for another 40 years. I know them boys say they like you thick, but I'm your family.
Yep.
There's a thin line between that burger and that healthy yam from how you can start making healthier choices. So I know I kind of went all over the place because it just isn't all over the place.
Yeah.
But we have to kind of like hit on those different areas to filter it down to be able to say, wow, okay, that was a lot of different examples, but one of them might hit somebody in a way that says, you know what, you can be thick and you can do it through eating foods that aren't full of saturated fats and highly processed that's going to make your ticker hurt and your arteries crystallize with all kind of mucus and fungus life. And muscle thickness and fat thickness is two different things. And again, our have that conversation if it's easy to say your body shaming me. And then one side note too, I was talking to a young lady who's about 15, you know, going through her rites of passage in a 16-year-old. And this is kind of off, but it still goes with body shaming and you know, health shaming. Is she was asking, you know, there's some hoes in this house. She was like, what is a hoe?
Right, what you mean?
And she was like, because, and this is her taking in our examples, she was like, well, some people say, you know, a hoe is a woman who's highly promiscuous, but if you talk to highly promiscuous women who choose to do with their body as they will, they say, I'm expressing myself, or this is my choice. Don't shame me for that. So what message are we leaving to the children when there's no self-regulation? And that when it comes to health, we can culturally give a reason up to say,
this is what it is for me.
But what is the long-term effects of being a promiscuous man or a promiscuous woman just on the body, outside of expression and the culture of it? How does this child who's going through rites of passage figure out, okay, she thick, so it's okay, I can keep doing this. But when you're 50 years old, that kind of thick is something completely different.
It is.
Oh, expressing myself and doing with what I want with my body just because I can. But what's the all down the line ramifications of being that open and that free down the line when it comes to STDs, emotional detachment issues, pregnancies? There's just so many things that this can come into when we're talking about our health and our decision making. And I really had to pause with that young lady, and I was like, oh God, I gotta, you know, you coming to teach for some knowledge. And so I explored both of those perspectives, but I said, look at the long-term effects. Live in the moment, yes, but also entertain the thought. I'm just bugging.
I love it.
Long-term effects of the decision-making that you're having now. And that's how you can come to a more balanced self-regulation cycle.
I love that you are just leading right into my questions for me, because this, for real, is going just perfectly. So I wanted to talk about that exact same thing when it comes to BBWs. And their health perception of love. Okay, self-love, and then love coming from outside, because the BBW movement for me has a lot to do with this whole paradigm of the fashion trend, or the objectivity. Well, you know, we're objectifying the woman's body and making her, what do you call it, like a sex object. And I feel like BBWs don't realize that it's not a compliment for a man to call you beautiful and says he loves you because he has a sexual fetish behind your unhealthy habits. And I have always taken issue with that, because when men talk about why they love their BBW women, that's all they talk about. They talk
Right.
about her softness and how where they jiggle her fat and put
Yeah.
their face down in her titties. And, you know,
Yeah.
I'm like, is that what you love about this entire human being?
Exactly.
To me,
Exactly.
that's a shaming type of, it's like a category of health shaming where
Right.
you can fetishize a person's unhealthy lifestyle and behavior. And you're encouraging that, especially, I think it's dangerous because they put love attached to it. And how
Yeah.
many women are accepting the BBW category and the BBW lifestyle because they're looking for the BBW men?
Right. Or
And
just
I'm
looking, period.
Love, yeah, they just looking for love, and I mean, because all of us are hard up, whether we fat or small, or
Right.
big or small, or dark or light. We all trying to be loved out here. So for a woman to be in that space where she's already having unhealthy choices that are impacting her body, but now she's having unhealthy choices impacting her heart. I'm thinking about the extra work that woman has to do to love on herself, or to find it in herself to make
Yeah.
those self calibrating self adjustments, because she's in this paradigm where, oh, this is serving me
Right.
being unhealthy is serving up love for me. These men love this fat,
Exactly.
and I'm just like, God, that is just a strong mental house to walk out of. Or I
Yeah.
should say it's a strong mental place to be when, or a mental place to fight when you're trying to figure out your own self-love. And I'm also thinking about our teenagers as well,
Hmm.
because like you said, it's about the fashion, it's about the trends, it's about the
Right.
celebrityism attached to it, it's
Right.
about the glamour of the
Yeah.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, like every kid, even grown people are in the mirror, turned to the side. We all checking out our asses. I told myself the other day, Sharice, if you don't want a man to size you up based on your body and decide whether you're good or not based on your body, I don't want you to look in the mirror and do that to yourself.
Very
I had to
interesting.
tell myself that. Like, I know I'm just checking out my outfit, make sure I'm cute, but I catch myself too many times lingering at this
Yeah.
side pose, trying to hold the stomach in, trying to stick, trying to do the little celebrity thing. And I'm like, no, this is not me. That's not me. I know I look good regardless of what weight I am, or I know that I am good regardless of
Right.
how I look. So I want our message to make sure that it's ringing clear for people, because the health and wellness of our bodies, it's intrinsically tied and connected to the health and wellness of our hearts and minds. And
Right.
we're about this whole the heart surgery and the brain surgery. So I want everybody to know that while we're doing surgery on the heart and the head, it has direct implications on what's going on in the physical body.
Yes.
Because if you and I get a client and we're helping them heal their heart, or heal their thinking, heal their reasoning and logical processes, we should know that eventually in their physical world, whether it be their physical body, whether it be their financial life, whether it be their home life, their marriages, their relationships, something physically tangible is going to come out of that heart and mind change, or that adjustment. So I really want our listeners to be clear about that. This is not just about your body. It's not just about what you are eating. It's about how you're loving yourself and actually giving yourself something to work from when it comes to this physical, manifestations. We're manifesting a whole world out here, and it comes from
Yeah.
the head and the heart.
It's very true. It's very true. That would
Mhm.
that as a really good example. Um, when we think of abuse or abusive relationships, most of the times we think of physical beating and domestic violence.
Mhm.
But I have seen a variety of relationships where there is a partner, most often a very thin man. It can change, but
Mhm.
most often a very thin and small man with a
Mhm.
very large, oversized woman who
Mhm.
feeds them and feeds them and feeds them. They
Mhm.
are aware of the physical health implications and the long term results, but the trade, is I love them this way.
Mhm.
And you really have to ask yourself, there's clearly an addiction, there's clearly an enabler who is, in my mind, a drug dealer. Most drug dealers who continue to serve up whoever it is that's coming for their drug, they feel themselves in a position of power.
Mhm.
So if there is a woman out there, and really addressing what you're saying about is my personification and my persona and my popularity and my attraction being gauged by people who are uplifting choices in my life that are giving me long-term effects that could be detrimental to my health and longevity?
Mm-hmm.
Is this to an extent an abuser in my life? And do we only regard it when it shows up with broken bones and bruises? Are we able to see abusive tendencies, behaviors, and cultural examples of very psychologically abusive first? Because no one can abuse your body and enable you to do bad things to your body without already capturing your mind and your heart, right? So if there is that viewer, we're not shaming you being a big, beautiful woman. Let me say that
Very
statement clear.
clear.
We've been kind of saying it, you know, in all these other ways, but I want to say it very clear and direct. I am not here. We are not here to shame anybody for their body size.
Right.
We are here to pronunciate the clarity of the conversations that need to be had in terms of how much of my identity is attached to defending my body shape as opposed to observing some of the healthy adaptations that can be made in order for my lymph nodes, my lungs, my kidneys, my cholesterol, my hypertension, the insomnia and anxiety that we actually sensationalize, and actually now we're just this depressed click and gain. Some of those things have to do with the inability to take responsibility to the adjustments that we need to make. And if we stay going with society saying it's cute and it's sexy, as opposed to being responsible for looking at the long-term effects of it, we will stay in these abusive societies and relationships, continuing to feel empty and not in love, but getting exterior exoneration and praise. Because a lot of those women know that you don't love me for me. You love me, like you said, because I fulfill a fetish or a fantasy. And fetishes and fantasies, they're not love.
Nope, it'll never end out. It'll never end up being the fantasy that the man is portraying to her under those pretenses. That I just love you so much because you're a big woman. I think that when those women come to the realization that that's not love, it's very challenging for them to go ahead and remove themselves because they've already committed to the BBW lifestyle. And even though there is a population of men out there who love it, it's not a big population of men. You know, a lot of men are more brainwashed towards the Barbie style, the Barbie, you know, when a lot of the guys that have BBW fetishes, they're your lower what you would not necessarily consider an eligible bachelor. They're
Right.
usually a certain kind of man that has that fetish, and he just kind of uses those women, of course, because they can get money from those kind of women. They can get a place to stay. You know how it goes where
Right.
a woman is being used for everything she can possibly have to
Well,
give.
it's just so many ideas, because like even a lot of my African friends and people that I've talked to, when you go to other countries, they'll say that like a woman with meat on their bones. But if you look at some of the psychology and the belief behind that, it's an indication that you're eating well. So if you're in a country where there's a lot of poverty, thickness indicates wealth and prosperity because you ain't getting big and
Nice.
eating
Okay, being got no money.
good. You got some money, right? So
Okay.
how much is that about, you know, an inner desire of that? Because I ultimately think when we say somebody loves you, they love you and they want you to be as healthy and happy and have the best quality of mind, body, spirit as possible.
Yes.
And so if you're in a relationship, if there's someone out there listening or watching that's in a relationship where you know the person says things to you, well, I'm not going to be with you no more if you keep losing weight. When you know that you're doing what's best for you,
Please keep
lose the person. Don't worry about it.
That's
Because some of that weight that you're trying to lose might be the dead weight of people who want you to stay in a sickly or abusive or celebrating the addictions that you have that you're just outgrowing. And that's absolutely a part of shedding the addiction. Shedding the addiction is not just the substance or the thing that you're addicted to. It's also people, ideas, and societies that uplift the idea that that's acceptable or cute or hot or popular or okay.
I love
That's all you to do. So I just wanted to say that because I want to make sure as we exit this conversation, again, reiterating wherever you are on your journey, there are people, there will be people who will make comments, and you have to return to the self and say, what is my why and how I'm going through this process? And that's none of their business. It's all your business. And that might be difficult to redefine when you're used to sharing your business or having your business validated by others. But it's your mission. You came through that vaginal canal or that belly
Alone.
home, and you're gonna have to leave to that white light or whatever place you
Yeah.
go on your own. So
Just
all the people that fetishized you are not going with you when
no.
you evolve and you leave this meat suit and leave this planet. That's for sure.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely, that's nothing but the truth if I've never heard it. I think that's a great way to close out because we
Yeah.
have such a large audience of people who are kind of struggling with different dimensions of the health shaming, whether it come from outside or inside. So I think we did a good job kind of covering it for both of them because quite simply, it is a lot of dead weight from the circles that we keep that need
Oh
to be
yeah.
cut off so that we can make our changes because sometimes people just get so used to you being who they thought you
Yeah.
were, or I mean they might be used to the person that you actually were, but when you're trying to become somebody different, sometimes it can't, you cannot maintain those connections because they
Yeah.
just feed the wrong energy. So I love the fact that we have enough well-rounded conversation to cover just about anybody that's dealing with that type of mental abuse or some kind of just a position, to be in a position where you need to make changes and you need to go about understanding where health shaming comes from so that you can come from up under it. I think that's
Right.
one of the biggest things I want for our readers or listeners to hear is that
Yeah.
it is a mountain.
Yeah.
It's definitely a mountain, but that's the one of the fruits of our spirit is that we can move mountains.
That's right.
So, why not just get yourself
Yeah.
in a mental space where you can move that mountain and sure enough, it will move according to your command. Just do it.
Yeah.
And
And
I,
even if that analogy, if there's another analogy I'll offer is, mountains are meant to be climbed. So
mm,
maybe you don't have to do all that work to move the mountain, but you can move your ass over it.
okay, and get you to the mountain climbers. Get down there, do the mountain climbers, baby, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be at the top of that mountain.
I think that's our closing mantra today. Move something.
Okay, whether you moving mountains or whether you moving your ass.
Ass.
Okay, just like that. Boy, I love it. I love you. I'm glad that we had a
I
chance
love
to catch up again. And so, what's our next topic gonna be? Let's let the people know what's gonna be the next
Oh
session of us.
goodness. I don't have my notes up, but
Oh,
we did surrendering. We
uh-huh.
did surrendering. We did health shaming. I believe the last topic that we wanted to explore was the whole concept and idea of like creating and navigating your journey, like
Mhm.
how to go about designing and navigating your journey.
That's it. All right. Well, guys, the next time that's what you'll hear from us. Hopefully, you enjoyed this installment and the last one. And
Mhm.
this has been Miss Mariana. This is Sharice. Oh, I can't tell y'all Sharice because y'all know Reese Roberts, but y'all know my real name is Sharice.
Crazy.
Reese Roberts and Entertain the Thought. And you guys make sure you go to Instagram and check out Miss Mariana on Miss, what is it, Mariana 365? It's
Yeah,
Miss Mariana 365.
five. And I'm gonna put up some tidbits of our conversation. I have some video, so I'm gonna put that up soon. I was had all kind of deadlines just like you, but we got some back stuff to put up, so
Yeah,
we'll
that's
share.
great. I love it. So I'll also put up the episode on Entertain the Thought so you
Yeah.
guys can come back and listen to the audio if you missed the video or any other place. So that's gonna be it for us today. And we love you guys. We hope to see you the next time. Signing off.
Peace.
Peace, people.
Thank you, sis. I like you so much.